And welcome back to Musicians Edition. Today, as promised, we're looking at number 57 from Essential Elements, and we're going to address the triangle part, okay? So a couple things to talk about with triangle before we get going. You can see I have laid out here a few different items, right? One is, of course, the triangle itself, and then we have what we call triangle clips, right? And then we have an assortment of triangle beaters, okay? And we're going to talk about each one of these individually. Every triangle that you see will have one open side, right? It'll have two closed sides and then one open side, all right? You use that open side for a couple things. One is to put the clip on. Another thing that we want to think about with the open side is we always want to have the open corner of the triangle on the side of our non-dominant hand, right? So if you're right-handed, you want to put the open end by your left hand, on the left-hand side of your body, right? You want to put the closed corner on your right-hand side, right? Now you can see this triangle has one side that's shorter than the other two, right? Some triangles are that way. Some triangles are equal. And so if you have one that has a shorter side, you want to put that shorter side on the bottom, typically, okay? If you don't put it on the bottom, your triangle ends up kind of unbalanced and hanging kind of wobbly. You put it on the bottom, then it hangs nice and straight, okay? So that's a triangle. Again, we'll talk about how to like hit it and stuff in a second once we get set up with our clips. So this is a triangle clip, okay? These are kind of the cheaper ones. They're just kind of rugged, just a piece of metal with a spring in it, right? And a piece of string here, which is where we hang the triangle, okay? Now, I've seen students try to hang triangles with all sorts of different things, rubber bands, ponytails, just a piece of string, anything that you can use to suspend it in the air, and that's fine to get by, but you should really try to get your hands on triangle clips when you're playing triangle, okay? These are pretty affordable. A lot of times, you just need to tell your teacher, tell your band director, or whatever, that you really need a triangle clip, and you can make that happen, okay? So when we have the triangle clip, right, when we get ready to put it on the triangle, we want to make sure that the part of the clip that opens faces away from you, all right? So we've got two things to kind of orient here. We want to make sure we have the open side of the triangle on our left and the opening of the clip facing out, away from our body, okay? So then we just thread this on here, right? And then the triangle hangs like that. You can see I have a towel laid out here, which is where I'm putting everything down and picking it up. And that's important so that you don't make a whole lot of noise. Kind of like we talked about with tambourine, these small percussion instruments make a lot of noise if you set them down and pick them up off of a hard surface, right? So you always want to put down something soft, a towel or something like that, to make sure you can do that quietly, all right? So I've got this clip on here. I'm just going to lay it down. And let's talk about beaters. So you can see I kind of have a whole bunch of beaters, right? This might be a little bit overkill, but each one of these beaters gives me a different weight, a different thickness, right? Sometimes a different shape. It's like something like that. This one's that same style, but a little bit thicker, right? I have some that are pretty skinny, right? These are pretty thin, right? And each one of these different types of beater will give me a different sound out of the triangle, right? And then here's my personal favorite, a little teardrop shape. Yeah? So it's always great to have a bunch of different options. My collection here, maybe a bit much, but it's nice to have. Okay? So those are triangle beaters. Now, again, I've seen people hit a triangle with a whole bunch of different things. A stick or whatever, a mallet or something like that. But you really want to make sure that you have a triangle beater, right? Again, in a pinch, if you got nothing else, a stick will get it done. Better than not having triangle, but you really want to try to get some triangle beaters. Again, you can get some that are pretty inexpensive. If you just buy one or two, pretty affordable, pretty easy to make happen. All right? So now when we pick up our triangle, let's talk about how to hold this thing, okay? So what you're going to do with your index finger and your thumb of your non-dominant hand, right? I'm right-handed, so I'm going to do this with my left hand, right? I'm going to make a C with my index finger and my thumb. I'm sorry, my middle finger and my thumb. Make a C with those two fingers, right? And I'm just going to turn my hand flat, right? I'm going to take the triangle clip and lay it right on top of those two fingers, okay? Now it's important that we get this triangle grip or triangle hold, if you will. It's important that we get this correct so that down the road when we have to do some different techniques with the triangle, our hands will already be in the correct place to make those happen, okay? So I'm going to set it on top of that C. My index finger is just going to lay down on top, okay? And then my third and fourth finger are just going to kind of hang out here and not really do much right now, okay? Now in the future, we'll use those two fingers to muffle the triangle and to let the triangle ring, right? But for now, we're just holding with the index finger on top, middle finger and thumb supporting underneath, right? And the triangle hanging freely up in the air, okay? Now, when you hold the triangle, when you play the triangle, you want to hold it, somewhere around eye level, right? It doesn't have to be real high. Some people like to play it up here. Some people like to play it a little bit lower, right? Just find somewhere that's comfortable for you, but you don't want to play it way down here, right? Somewhere where you can kind of see the music, you can see the triangle, and you can see your director all at the same time, okay? All right, so we're holding the triangle. I'm going to select a beater, right? I'm going to go with this green one for right now, okay? Let's talk about how to hit the triangle, okay? I like to hit the triangle on the bottom. Some people like to hit the triangle on the side of their strong hand, right? Either one is totally fine. Some people find this more comfortable, right? I tend to like this one better, but that's the general idea, right? So when we hold the triangle beater, you want to hold it just like a regular stick, right? You want to pull it out of your hand just a little bit, right? So you see I have kind of my regular snare drum grip going on right now, and I'm just going to pull this out to where it's really my first three fingers that are doing the work here. My back fingers aren't really touching the beater, okay? I just find that lets the beater kind of rebound a little bit better. If I have these fingers touching, then it kind of gets pretty stiff just because it's so short and heavy, right? So if I let it come out this way, it kind of balances a little bit better and I can get kind of a better rebound, okay? So that's how we hold the beater. I'm going to find my triangle grip again, make a C, set it on top, index finger, okay? Now find the bottom of the triangle. I want to try to get a little bit of an angle, right? Some people like to play flat like this or flat like this. I personally like to play with a little bit of an angle, right? And I'm just going to nice and easy just strike the triangle and lift the beater away. Okay, so triangle jokes aside, it's actually quite difficult to get a consistent sound on a triangle, right? Every little thing that changes when you hit it gives you a different sound, right? If I move the beater out this way a little bit, a different sound than if I move the beater up here, right? If I move the beater over a little, different sound than if I move the beater over here, right? So getting a really consistent sound on a triangle takes practice, right? As much as people might think it's hilarious that you're practicing triangle, it's what you have to do in order to make consistent sounds on this instrument, okay? So now that we're all set up, let's try number 57. You see we have 1, 2, 3 whole notes, 2 half notes, and 1, 2, 3 whole notes, and 2 half notes, right? Then we have a whole bunch of rests, just like we did on snare drum, right, for 4 measures, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And then in measure 13, we're back into the whole notes. And then in measure 17, you see those are kind of funny looking notes, right? They're X's. But that's triangle notation for quarter notes, right? So we have 4 quarter notes, another quarter note in the next measure, and then a quarter rest, 2 more quarter notes, 1 more quarter note, right? So we're playing on the beat in all of those. All right? Let's try this thing, and then we'll talk about a couple more details in here. Let's make sure we keep in mind the dynamics. We have a decrescendo in measure 8, and then a crescendo to forte, 3 measures from the end. All right? And here we go. Trying to get nice, consistent sounds here. 1, 2, and ready, go. 2, 3, 4. Two, 3, 4, measure 10, 3, 4, 11, 4, 12, 2, 3, forte. Okay. Now there are two little notation things I want to talk about before we do this one more time. All right. You see in the last measure and in the measure before the last measure on the triangle line, which is below the underneath the line of the staff there, right? There on the triangle note, there's a little what a wind player would call a slur, right? Coming out of the note in the last measure and the next to last measure on beat 1, right? That's going to tell me to let the triangle ring, right? And not to muffle it during the rest. If that slur weren't there, I might do this. And stop the triangle from ringing on the rest. Maybe not. Maybe I would. You just have to kind of use your ears and make that judgment based on the context. But when I see that little line coming out of the note going into nothing, I know that that means to let the triangle ring through those rests, okay? All right, so let's try this one more time. Let's really try to keep an eye on the dynamics and let the triangle ring in those last two measures. Okay, here we go. And 1, 2, ready, go. Two, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, forte. Okay, so that's number 57. So real quick, before we finish up here, I just want to show you the difference between some of these triangle beaters and then one other way that we can kind of hang the triangle from clips, okay? So this is the heaviest beater that I have. It's just much thicker and there's a lot more metal to it, okay? So that can give me a fuller kind of heavier sound, yeah? This is the next size down. This is the size I used for number 57. Here's the next size down from that. And the next size down from that. And here is the smallest beater that I have. Right, so you can hear the difference between the biggest one and the smallest one is pretty drastic. That's the biggest one. Here's the smallest one. Okay, so which beater you choose is quite important because it's going to make a big difference in the sound. Okay? All right, let's talk about one more little trick with the triangle, right? You notice I have two clips here. The reason I have two is sometimes you want to hang the triangle up and try and play with two hands, right? Not anytime soon, probably, but something to keep in mind, especially if you have to play other percussion instruments on a concert band piece or something like that. If you need to get to triangle quickly and you don't really have time to pick it up and play it holding it up in the air, then you can mount it to a music stand or something else like that. So you can get to it more quickly. All right. Now, that being said, you want to, if you are able to pick it up, you definitely want to pick it up and hold it up in the air, right? This is definitely the best way to play the triangle. for a number of reasons. But you always want to pick it up if you have time. If you don't have time, here's something you can do, right? Take one clip, take the other clip. So put them on the two closed corners, right? So now I have two clips here. And then I'm going to take both of those clips and clip them to this music stand, right? And now I have the triangle hanging up here. And if I needed to, I could go from another instrument and just pick up a beater and start playing, right? So then I only had to pick up one thing instead of two. Or if I need to play something fast, I can use two beaters. Okay? Now, when you put the triangle down and pick the triangle up, right, when you put the triangle down and pick the triangle up, you typically want to lay it down like this, right? A lot of times, just because there's a clip, we think that we have to clip it to something when we put it down, right? But it's a lot more difficult to take it from here to here than it is to take it from here to here, right? As long as you have a towel or something that you can lay it down on, right? This is very likely to make noise, right? You'll bump the music stand, bump something else in front of it, right? And make a bunch of noise. If you just lay it down and pick it up, you can do that quietly, okay? Sometimes you have to clip it to something, right? That's totally fine. If you need to hang it up like this, totally fine. You don't really want to play it like that, though, because if it's hanging up this way, you start playing it, it's going to start swinging around, right? It's better to put two clips on it like I showed you before, right? Now, again, if you have to do this and you have to play it like that because you only have one clip, fine. It'll get the job done. But it's easier, less of a risk to hang it up with two clips so that you have that one edge hanging up and the triangle can't swing back and forth. Okay? So that's number 57 and a whole bunch of stuff about triangle playing. So good luck. Have fun with that, and I'll see you next time.